Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto anime review. This one's going to be for episode 139, which is called The Terror Enko Onikuma. And so this was our first ever episode really focusing on this team of Genin, Team 40, which consists of Enko, of course, Doshu, and Suru. I think this was actually ended up being in a pretty interesting team with the idea of like, okay, kind of cursed, family lineage style jutsu, possession jutsu is what they said with the arms. For Enko, we had a weapon user and then a sort of, what would you call it, like hair kind of possessions, similar to the jutsu that Jiraiya uses at times. So, interesting enough. I do wish we'd maybe got to see a little bit more of the other two's, like, abilities, what exactly they do. Beyond just, like, okay, this guy's a few weapons and she can manipulate her hair a bit. But still, it was interesting enough. We see they get a switch of Jonin mentor here and they end up getting Ibiki. So it was fun to see him again, and the episode basically dealt with the idea of Enko has her like cursed like arms basically are becoming a problem. The more and more sort of fear she ends up sort of causing for people with them, and like her going out of control with it, the more and more she kind of isolates herself, the more lonely she begins to feel as everyone begins to become afraid of her. I like the sort of setup that like this has been going on for for a while, to the point where the other two members of her team have to have weapons and abilities specifically for countering her going out of control. That they're to a degree used to this and can handle it, but they are terrified every time it happens. So I like that they showcased the other two as being relatively skilled, that they ultimately were able to stop her with the tranquilizer in the end, but that it is this kind of problem that does need to be dealt with or to find the root of, which is what Ibiki does. They created a little bit of drama in the episode with the idea of like he comes in and immediately disbands the team and says he's only going to be working with Enko. So at least the other two kind of feeling like, what's going on here? Like, is he as the torture expert going to like misuse her just for torturing reasons or what? And they come to realize that like if we feel bad that like a rabbit kind of runs away from us when we're being completely friendly, how does she feel, like our friend feel, when we're a little bit hesitant to be around her when she's struggling with something? So they go back to I suppose that idea of kind of loneliness, and I was wondering would they bring up Naruto at all in this, or just like this is how like Lord Seventh felt when he was younger or something like that. That would have been a nice little thing to have the others realize that even Naruto kind of dealt with this at one point. But by the end of the episode, they kind of bring it around to like, oh, Ibiki, is this sort of how you feel? The fact that everyone just sees you as the torture expert guy and they can't see the real you. And he's like, something like that. So they had a nice little emotional like core to the episode, I suppose, without ever going particularly in depth on it, in that in the end, it was really all about the other two being fully willing to accept her and her willing to accept them. And by the end of the episode, that's what we get, that the team is able to work together very nicely and she's able to more utilize her abilities at will because she's more comfortable within the team. And they end up being a team that actually works quite well together with the combination of abilities that they have. Again, this is where you do wish that, they showed off a little bit more of like what jutsus they have and so on. And just that tends to be a general thing of like, okay, you have to show the characters and what their like speciality jutsu is, but you should also show like that they have abilities with other stuff as well. There was a nice little moment in the middle of the episode where we did get like Boruto and his team sort of helping them out. That was at least something nice to show them like interacting, that they aren't just like, oh, here's an episode focusing on this random team who doesn't interact with any of the others. But no, we did get that they knew Boruto and Sarada, of course, so they get to sort of hang out for a little bit in the middle of the episode and so on. But yeah, I wish we had got maybe a little bit more of like a backstory on her Enko's jutsu in terms of like what exactly it is. because obviously what we saw is that it makes her go out of control. It ends up like possessing her instead of her utilizing it as an ability. And it seems to just be like really, really powerful arms, and that they can cut through stuff. By the end of the episode, we find out they can like extend and stuff like that. But like, what exactly is the nature of the ability? Like, where does it come from? That would have been something nice to get, because like they talk about like it's passed down in the clan, and I think this is the first time we've ever heard of this like Onikuma clan. So, what is the idea with it? So, I don't know. It's definitely a weird one. With that, that would have been, I think, the nice world building stuff to put this episode over the edge, and not have it just be a sort of nice, fun episode. I think at the very least, what this one did was that I actually quite like Team 40 now. Especially like I actually want to know more about the other two, Doshu and Suru. Especially him, like as sort of like a weapons expert style character. I'd really like to know kind of what sort of path he goes down, in terms of, he had those sort of ring binder type things, that sort of trap things, which was a cool sort of more modern weapon. I'd like to maybe see an episode where maybe he gets to meet up with Ten or something like that, and she teaches him some weapon stuff. You know, there's options like that with the characters having those sort of specialities. And so on. But yeah, that's really all there was to this episode. It was relatively basic and to the point, but it was fine. Like we know we're getting into canon content in a little bit in terms of manga content. We're getting our Mujina Bandits arc, which is it's a pretty good arc. I think obviously like there's a few things to get through before we get into the really, really good Boruto manga content, but you know, I think everyone's going to appreciate getting back into the absolute, like, proper manga content after so long. So, next episode looks like it's going to be an Inojin-focused episode with some Chocho thrown in as well. He's finally going to try and master the mind transfer jutsu, which we've seen him use before, but he obviously is not particularly comfortable with it, and it's not an ability that works for him all the time. So this could be fun. It looks like Ino's going to be in the episode that little bit more, and we'll maybe get more of just where his sort of specialities lie, and if he is going to use sort of the jutsu of both of his parents going forward. It's that sort of thing with a lot of these characters where you kind of wonder, like, oh yeah, like, is Chocho ever going to learn any sort of lightning style jutsu? Because if she could combine like the powers of, you know, Choji with the powers of Karui, that would be really, really impressive. Like lightning style giant attacks. So that's sort of the potential a lot of these Boruto characters have, of like having sort of these master ninjas as their parents, that they can get the power of both. Whereas I think they are sort of more taking the approach of almost just giving them one jutsu and then maybe teasing the fact that they might learn another. It's the same with like Shikadai, and that like we've seen little bits and pieces of like, oh, he can use a wind style jutsu, but he doesn't use it that much. So yeah, next week's episode should be fun. But yeah, that's been my thoughts on episode 139. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.